You know. Thanks. And from what your announcement was, I made this presentation here some time ago. You know, the "Who am I" topic. How many here were here for that? How many of you were here for that? Yeah, just a handful. Okay. So one of the main features in that presentation is a description by a Greek philosopher. And the Greek philosopher was to prompt people to ask the question, "Who am I?" He told a story in his writings. The ship of Theseus. You've heard of Theseus before? Yeah? You've heard of Theseus? Well, congratulations. You were there. Oh, okay. So Theseus was a Greek mythological figure, a king who was requested in Athens to visit Crete because there was an evil minotaur, like kind of like a demon, to go chop him. So he got on a boat, went to Crete and chopped him, came back. So in the course of 100 years, no, 100 or 1,000 years, whatever, some big number of years, they reenacted the killing of the Minotaur by Theseus. So it became like an annual big event for people from Athens. Then he, the Greek philosopher, asked this question: what's the real ship of Theseus? Is it the one that's in the harbor that they use every year? Or since they've repaired it so many times, it's now a completely different ship. But it looks like the one that was 1,000, I think that was the number, 1,000 years before. So anyway, I'm in Beijing, and a girl asked a question. She, at the end of the topic was something else altogether, something about yoga. And she raised her question, what's your take on the ship of Theseus in Beijing? So I asked her, what do you know about the ship of Theseus? We studied in the philosophy class. No, it's not like in China, there's a dearth of, but they study in Greek philosophy also. So what to speak of Greek philosophy, Bhagavad Gita is universal all over the world in so many languages. And this particular Bhagavad Gita, as it is a the classic presentation, because it's presenting the message of Bhagavad Gita in this very important form that Krishna says right in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, that it's to be understood through disciplic succession. Or, it's like you have a university here. Just yesterday, I met a young student from Chicago, Naperville, Chicago area, and he just got admitted to this university. He just got his, acknowledgement. Yay. So mom and this young man were really happy. Why here? I mean, there's universities all over the world. So why here? Because it's a good university. It has a good reputation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you get a degree, it means something out there in the world. So you're here. And the process of education is through professors. You don't just buy a book or books and read books and take an engineering exam or a doctor's exam and a lawyer's exam and pass the exam, and that's it. That's your profession. There's a system of learning. standard system of learning in the world, and certainly in spiritual subject matter. So that's as you heard at the very beginning, for over 50 years I've been practicing. So once upon a time, 50 plus years ago, I was an undergraduate student at a university, and at the university that I was attending, Srila Prabhupada came to our university along with Allen Ginsberg, and I didn't know I knew who Allen Ginsberg was because he was a celebrity, a poet, celebrity type person. But I didn't know Prabhupada, I didn't know anything about spiritual life. But they visited and they chanted in the student union. They're like a hall, the Millard Fillmore Room, it was called. And that's how I got introduced. And then from that, then somebody gave me a Bhagavad Gita. And, things started happening. Just from that moment's association with, brief association with the Hare Krishna mantra chanted by our founder Acharya. So here I am, and here we are. This is a very simple topic. Who is there that doesn't want happiness? Everyone wants happiness. But what is it? And the first slide, matrix. Which one do you want? Which pill? The truth pill or the illusion pill? Of course, everyone's going to say, I want the truth pill. The truth is, guess what? There isn't happiness in this place. According to Bhagavad Gita, Dukhalayam ashashvatam, by design. Prisons are not places of happiness. And this is the fortress of Durga. She's in charge. This is her place. And it's a prison. And it's not a place of happiness. Here's a nice picture from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7. In chapter 7, we hear of these different elements that make up the body. The body, the mind, the intellect, and the spirit soul within. The 8 separated material energies. Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kamano, Bodhir, Evacha, Ahankara. It makes 8. The final one is false ego. Are these people with us or they're not with us? It's another group. Another Asian American group. It's okay. We all have a mind. We don't see one, but there is such a thing. There's intelligence. Somewhere in there's intelligence. It's subtle energy. And of course, there's the gross body, but animating all of those features, that's the soul, the spiritual spark, according to Bhagavad Gita. It animates matter. Matter doesn't move on its own. Matter moves under the influence of the spirit soul. So that should mean that, we want to be happy, and somehow it doesn't turn out to be happiness. So why is that? Why is it difficult? And how do you learn to be happy? A graphic that is depicting the feature of Maya. Ma means not, and Ya means this. So whatever we point at, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Something may appear to be real, like a reflection of an object, may appear to be like the object it's reflecting. But the reflection has no substance to it. So it's not real. So many classics. The mirage, and it looks like water, but it's not water. Or here's a mirror, and you show in the mirror an apple, And it's exact replica of the apple, but there's no substance in the mirror. It appears to be, but it's not what it appears to be. And the material world is that kind of a place. It's a place of Maya. It's a kingdom of Maya. It's what appears to be real, but it's not. And she, Maya, is an energy, Maya Shakti, acts through these different modes of nature. You see in the center part, there's a little lotus, and there's the three presiding deities of the three modes of nature, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. So passion, ignorance, and goodness, the three modes of nature, and the presiding deities. And the material energy, the Maya Shakti energy, makes things look to be real when they're not real. And according to the mode of nature that we're in, or primarily influenced by, something looks nice or not nice, based upon our desire. So how are we going to find happiness in this place? You know, a conventional, at least Western conventional idea, we don't know when we're going to die, so eat, drink, and be merry. Or tomorrow you may die, which is true. At least tomorrow we're going to die. But is this what happiness is? Because that's what fills in the space called life. So there's going to be several verses from 11th canto, chapter 8. You're all familiar with Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, chapter 8 of canto 11 is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. Who's Uddhava? Uddhava is a cousin, like Arjuna is Krishna's cousin. But it's, this big family. And Uddhava is, in one sense, he's more intimate and a confidential associate of Krishna than Arjuna. In this sense, from the time that Krishna left Vrindavan to go to Mathura, Uddhava was there. And they were constant companions during the period of time that Krishna was in Mathura. And when Krishna shifted from Mathura to Dwarka, Uddhava was there. And he had a kind of relationship with Krishna where he was very wise. And so Krishna would consult him. Krishna didn't need to consult anybody. But in their relationship, he would take advantage of the wisdom of Uddhava and ask, what should I do in this circumstance, that circumstance? Like you might ask a very wise and confidential friend. And that's the kind of relationship they had. Not that he needed advice, but it was their relationship. So at a certain point in time, being an intimate associate of Krishna, he knew that Krishna was going to leave. He was going to end his pastimes and depart. So he came in a solitary place in Dwarka. He approached Krishna and fell at his feet and started crying and said, he didn't say don't go, but he said, take me with you. I don't want to be left here alone without you. You're everything to me. That kind of emotion. And what Krishna did was something very similar to what Krishna did with Arjuna. He had a long discussion with him, philosophical discussions. This is part from that section. 11th canto, chapter 8, Krishna to Uddhava. A conditioned soul undergoes great trouble to obtain a little happiness. After struggling in material life, which is full of hardship and hypocrisy, one may receive a little sense gratification, but the illusory pleasure in no way offsets the burden of suffering one must bear to obtain it. In Krishna's words. So there's the donkey and the carrot. So one of the enticements to get a donkey to do what donkeys do is they tie a stick in front of them and a carrot dangling from the stick, and each step they take, they're supposed to get closer to the carrot, but the carrot moves as they move. But at the end, they get the carrot. Environmentalism seems to be something quite natural for a place like Champaign-Urbana. There's a problem. There's statistics about the rate at which the non-renewable resources of the Earth planet are being used. Some are renewable, but they're the ones that even that are renewable, they're being depleted very quickly and not reproducing themselves quickly enough. But many of the resources, they're non-renewable, and the appetite of the human population, if the rest of some statistic, if the rest of the world consumed resources at the rate that the United States consumes resources, we'd need something like 3.5 Earth planets. But we don't have 3.5. We have just one. So that's a problem. The search for happiness by taking resources of nature and consuming them, it doesn't bring happiness, but it makes for more and more greed. So it's a problem for our little planet Earth. And Earth sometimes lets us know that we're messing in the wrong way. So here's another verse taken from the same section. Notice the knife, the sword at the bottom. The network of material desires is created when one falsely thinks that he can establish himself permanently in the material world. This binding network should be cut by the sword of detachment. Otherwise, one will be forced to wander in the illusory network of Maya with no understanding of liberated life on the spiritual platform. Now, there's spiritual desire and there's material desire. We're going to talk, excuse me, we're going to touch on this a couple of times, because when it comes to spiritual life, there are different views on what spiritual life means. One is cessation of desire, which is not possible. So one of the prominent proponents of cessation of material desire, cessation of desire, is Buddhism. And Buddhism, a little bit like Christianity, once upon a time it was in one part of the world, and it has spread. Christianity certainly has spread, and Buddhism has certainly spread. Right, just before here, coming to Chicago and Naperville and down here, Urbana, I was in Detroit. That's where I got this cough and cold. In Detroit, it was really freezing cold. Minus 12 degrees. So, in the audience, there was a group of college students in one venue at the Farmington Hills Temple. And there's one fellow that had been, an American fellow, he had been practicing Buddhism for something like 10 years. And he shifted from practicing Buddhism to practicing Krishna consciousness, but he had a desire to see how the two compare. Fortunately, I had some background because I had also practiced Buddhism for some period of time, not for 10 years, but some period of time not because I was searching, like a young undergraduate college kid searching for reality or truth. So in this course of this discussion, we had some back and forth, just kind of monopolized the discussion for a while. But a main teaching, I'll put it as a question, a main teaching in Buddhism is, so this is the fill in the blank question. The root cause of suffering is desire. The way to become free from suffering, become free from desire. How do you become free from desire? Answer, 2 things. Live a life of goodness, Like any spiritual direction will tell you, live a life of goodness with emphasis on ahimsa, nonviolence. Like don't kill animals, for starters. You know the whole story of how one of the appearances of Buddha was as a prince, and he had privileges because he was a prince, and he went to a place and he saw they were slaughtering animals. And he asked, why are you doing this? And they said, well, it's authorized in the Vedas. Then he said, I forget the Vedas. I reject the Vedas. Be nonviolent. So that was like a core part of his teaching. So mode of goodness. And then the second, mindfulness. We've all heard that phrase. It comes from Buddhism, mindfulness. The first time I was asked to speak about this at a university, I was visiting a family, and I asked the fellow, it was his home I was staying, do you use this phrase in the commercial world today? He said, oh, yes. Everyone that's in an administrative post must take a course, the mindful manager. It's like, the buzz. What's a mindful manager? It has nothing to do with mindfulness, and it has nothing to do with spirituality, but it's just a buzz. So the mindfulness means, just putting in simple language, this is the discussion in Detroit with this young American fellow that was practicing Buddhism for some time. Buddha's teaching is consciousness. He doesn't say there's not a soul. He doesn't say there is a soul. He says all there is consciousness that's momentary. That is, the past is gone, the future hasn't happened. All there is the moment. Consciousness. At least in English, it's translated as consciousness. He uses the word jnana, Tattva vijnanavad. Not Tattva vijnanavad. Kshanik vijnanavad. Kshanik means momentary, like a blink of an eye. Divisions of time. One of the terms in the Bhagavatam or in the Vedas is kshanik. The time that it takes for the eye to blink, that's one kshanik. So consciousness is that. It's momentary. So be in the moment. Be in the moment. Be in the moment. And the process of meditation is exactly that. There's details and details. I'll skip the details. But when you become really proficient at being in the moment, what happens? Answer, you go on the other side of the moment. What's on the other side of the moment? Enlightenment. Nirvana. What's nirvana? Nirvana is cessation of material existence. Material existence is made up of moments, and on the other side of the moment is nirvana, enlightenment. And what's that? Nothingness. No desire. The place where there's no desire. A place of nothingness. Yummy, huh? But the teaching of the Vedas is not nothingness. The teaching is somethingness. Not only somethingness, everything. That which is the source of everything is on the other side of illusory time, the illusory moment. On the other side of the illusory moment is timelessness, not zero, but the source of everything. That's the Vedic conclusion. To get into the purpose of the Vedas, right within Bhagavad Gita, is to know that which is the source of everything. The purpose of Vedaischa Sayurvayar, Aham Eva Vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas is to know the source. The source. And the source is not nothingness. The source is the Supreme Person. So the liberated life on the spiritual platform cannot be approached by one who's immersed in the illusory pursuit of illusory happiness. It's the material desire that keeps the mind, or keeps us. Remember that series of diagrams, the triangles, the spirit soul, from connecting with who we really are. Here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. If you don't delight in them, what do you delight in? That's a good question. One is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activity for happiness, his condition of distress begins. This is Bhagavatam, paralleling the same message of Bhagavad Gita. That is to say, so I'm a soul, and as soon as I begin the endeavor to pursue happiness, immediately it invites the material energy, and the material energy has distress. Dukhalayama shashvatam. That's where my distress begins. So if I don't endeavor for material happiness, then what do? Become a Buddhist and twinkle or something, or be situated in nothingness or void, or become a practitioner of yoga where you're linking with the Supreme, and in connection with the Supreme, there's this unlimited happiness. By nature, it mandates, that is, material existence mandates renunciation of enjoyment, because if we attempt to have a pleasure constantly, it becomes repulsive. So those look nice things, but we want happiness that doesn't end. And so you try to engage yourself in material happiness, and it becomes repulsive. And similarly, lust. There's supposed to be some sound effects of crackling fire. So the Dushparena Analena Cha from Bhagavad Gita. Lust is a emotion that comes primarily from the body, but it doesn't satisfy, it burns like fire, according to Bhagavad Gita and experience. See, here's a nice lady. She has a bird in a cage, and she's very occupied polishing the bird cage. She likes her bird cage. Of course, the purpose of the bird cage is for the bird inside, but she gives so much attention to the cage that she's neglecting the bird inside. So similarly, if we give so much attention to the covering and not to what's inside, then the poor bird can croak. You can have a nice cage without a bird that's live and prospering. This is a nice cartoon. He says, this is death, Kala. He says, we're out of any time minutes, because death may come at any time, right? So he's knocking on the door, and she's answering the door, and the man inside wants to find out who it is. It's death. And how much time? Any time minutes are over. We don't know. Is there an option to that eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die? Conception, yes. There's a positive spiritual happiness. This positive spiritual happiness is made possible through yoga. Material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness, and freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. So there's the bird that flew out of the cage, and his smart bird, he's flying towards Krishna. So is that the mind not just having desire and trying artificially to become desireless, like a stone, or at least the chair. There's no desire. It's just sitting there. And when you may sit on it or not sit on it, but it's just sitting there. So matter is without desire, but the souls have desire. And souls have spiritual desire, and souls have spiritual desire that's misdirected. This is the problem of material existence. We raga dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata from Bhagavad Gita. Raga is coveting something, a attraction for something. Raga. I mean, it's a term in music, but that's what it means in life. Raga, attraction. And then the opposite is repulsion, dvesha. Raga, dvesha, samutena. Dvandva mohena. Moha means delusion. The duality of delusion. Dvandva mohena bharata. When the soul makes a mistake of free will choices and directs towards enjoying objects within the material field, then this Maya business begins. And there is a situation where the soul doesn't make that mistake, but the proper exercise of free will is direct the free will towards the Supreme. That's yoga, in a nutshell. Yoga means linking. Linking with what? Linking with the Supreme. Of course, there are different systems of yoga, and then it links with different standards or principles. But yoga, in its higher sense, that's what it means. A liberated person is not, this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 again, not attached, not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Now, this is describing meditation system of yoga, or dhyan yoga. Quickly. One way of describing what Bhagavad Gita is a yoga ladder. Starts way down here, the next rung of the yoga ladder, next rung of the yoga ladder, and gradually goes up the rungs of the yoga ladder to the topmost rung. I could give you a quick list. I'll do it. Chapter 2 starts with Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya. You're not the body, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. Because Krishna is dissuading Arjuna from leaving the battlefield and dropping his weapons and desisting from his duty. So, Sankhya Yoga. And once one becomes proficient in understanding matter and spirit, then there's this same detachment that comes. Knowledge, one who's really situated in knowledge is detachment from that which is ignorance, or the appearance of knowledge, or illusion, detachment from illusion. Therefore, Gyan Yoga, Gyan, knowledge, follows Sankhya Yoga. Then when that deepens, it becomes meditation system. Then Karma Yoga. And then finally Bhakti Yoga. That's the sequence that's in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. But this is just chapter 5, describing the concentration upon the Supreme within, which is a valid system of yoga, but not easy to practice, according to Arjuna. Too difficult. So chapter 6, see the self by the pure mind and relish and rejoice in the self, in that joyous state, when is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses, established thus when never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. Indeed, this is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So material contact, yehi samsparshaja bhoga, I contact objects of the senses. Samsparsha ja means senses contact objects with an expectation of bhoga. I'm going to enjoy. Let me finish. I won't go away, I promise. Yehi sparsha cha bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. When there's that expectation of senses meeting sense objects, and I'm going to be the enjoyer of that sense object, the buzz will come and its enjoyment. Dukkha yonaya evate. Yoni means a place of birth. Like the womb of a mother is a yoni, a place of birth. So distress takes birth in that moment of expectation of happiness, senses meeting sense object. As soon as there's that expectation, then in sequence follows, distress comes, arising from material contact. There's a way to become free from material contact than in the expectation of happiness. What's that? A greater happiness. It's really simple. I mean, in principle, it's really simple. You know, supposing I'm a 3-year-old and I like to play, and I can do the same thing, ride a tricycle around, or do this or do that, and do it for hours and hours and hours. I can't do that anymore. I mean, I suppose somebody could do that, but so because there's another standard of what happiness is. When the subjective experience of happiness is greater, it's really easy to give up something that's lesser. Detachment from the lesser is easy when there's a greater happiness. That's the principle that's being described. That's chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. And the conclusion of chapter 6 is what follows Dhyan Yoga, this finding happiness within, where one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. That's high. Difficulty comes. What happens? We all know what happens. What happens when some difficulty comes? Whatever it is that you're absorbed in, the tendency is to get distracted from what you're absorbed in. Supposing you're doing some project and something happens, some greatest calamity happens. Your mind goes there, problem solving. And what was going on, the project gets just put in a parking lot somewhere, and you go over here and solve this problem. And then through that problem comes the next 3 problems. And after those 3 problems comes a bunch more. And then when it finally settles down, now I can get back to the project. And then comes some more. And that's material life. And it's a way to live your life. It's just problem solving. And it's stressful. Is there a solution? Yes, a greater happiness. So Dhyan Yoga is a greater happiness, but higher than Dhyan Yoga is Bhakti Yoga, according to Bhagavad Gita. So it's an encouragement from Krishna directly. Here's the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. This is Krishna's concluding words in Bhagavad Gita. My dear Arjuna, I've explained this whole range of yoga system. He didn't instruct him what to do. You think about it, and then you let me know what you'd like to do. And Arjuna was very clear. I want to do what you want. That's bhakti. There's the master, and there's the servant of the master. And the servant of the master can have a different idea, but when they get aligned properly, I just want to do what you want. That's love. Bhakti is a yoga of love, but it's not with practical activity. Practical activity. So, okay, now I'm going to end with this. You're all students. Oh, once upon a time I was a student, but I stopped being the academic student. Now, how are you being students with a career goal? Fantastic. And you've done well to get into this institute, this university. Fantastic. Do well. And is that it? Is that the goal? Like, you just follow the thread. Get your degree. Maybe go on get a master's degree. Maybe go on get a PhD. And then, what's the carrot at the end of that stick? You get a job. And yeah, you got a job. Congratulations. Then get some money from you got a job and get some prestige maybe, but a job and some prestige. Fantastic. And you get some money. What are you going to do with the money? You get a house and you get a wife or a husband and you get a car and you get a computer and you get stuff. And then the kids grow up and the kids get old and they go off to school and they get, and then what do? You get old and kaput. That's it. My encouragement is don't make that mistake. There's something more, something far more, and you have to have a sense of purpose of what that something more is. What goes in between birth and death, please, besides that little scenario, and be good at it. The encouragement is not trash the university degree, but that's not it. That's not sufficient. Necessary, but not sufficient. That's like an axiom in mathematics. So make sure you hit the target, the purpose, and you'll find out what the purpose is by asking the question. And you're all here because you already have that answer. Refine it. Keep asking. Keep getting the point sharper and sharper. So as you go along in your life and your career and your everything that you do and your relationships with your friends and and everything, let that become clearer and sharper as you move. Look, I'm a senior citizen. It's easy for me to say stuff like that. But I'm here and I do what I do because you have the opportunity to take advantage of that wisdom. Please take advantage of that wisdom. Don't just pursue the material and that's it. And when it's over, it's all taken from you. You can't take any of that with you. None of it. But something can go with you, something that can be with you as you're going through life. And then what that next destination is, whatever that's going to be, is going to be determined by choices you make now. It's pretty simple. Okay. Thanks for sticking around.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had two questions.
Two questions.
Yeah.
She's got one microphone.
Use the mic.
Well, it's being recorded and.
Okay. My first question was, might be coming from a place of just curiousness and obviously not enough information on the subject, but do you have to I mean,
Yes or no?
in Bhagavad Gita, this is there is, right?
Yeah, there's
Like
a place.
Golika.
There's a place. It's because heaven is temporary,
Yeah.
and in heaven they're also in anxiety because the people in the lower regions, they want to have battle with them and take over, and sometimes they do. So there's conflict. There's a place where there's no conflict. What's that?
Golika Vrindavan.
Yeah, or Vaikuntha, no anxiety. The spiritual world. So back to teachers or any good association. Good association is good. Go for it.
Yeah.
Good. And better than good is transcendental. And what's the mean by definition? What is where the influence of the modes of nature are absent? The influence of time that destroys things is absent.
Yeah.
And that's a better than good. And is it attainable by us? Yes. And not only is it attainable, it's our home. We're as strangers in a strange land. We don't belong here. And the good people are good. So good people are certainly good. And it's not sufficient. Necessary, but not sufficient.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your second question.
I forgot.
Be respectful to those who are good.
Yeah.
Teachers that are good, wholesome people, be respectful.
Yeah.
And feel grateful that, wow, thank you. And then not like in a condescending fashion, but in some manner or another, to you and together look at that destination that's beyond good. Because that sustains the goodness. And without that place of shelter, it's hard to sustain that goodness in this realm. This is a realm of darkness.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay. So Dave,
And
when you remember the second one,
I'll let you know.
yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Way in the back. Way in the back. You may have to become the microphone runner. Our Emily, you may have to become the microphone runner. Somebody's going to have to do that. Yes, sir.
So my question is, we already know that the pursuit of the material is not going to give us happiness. That's how you summarized it. In which case, what I do not quite understand is why, even if we look at the Varn system, the concept of living life through stages, including brahmacharya, for example, and then you move and you have ras. Why go through all that? Why not directly move to pursuit? You could, but why don't more people do that? Or
Why is it? It's just it's a very simple answer. I know a young man that's at that stage. You know, he's looking at what his options are. And he's expressing in honest, I'm attracted. And I know the consequences. What do I do? So according to Vedic culture, there's an ashram for such people where they can regulate that tendency and become purified by submission to the regulation that comes from the Vedas, the source of perfect knowledge. They live their life in that ashram. And when the submission is to that higher authority, there's purification. What that means is during the course of their life, they're not incurring material complication by engaging illicitly and wanton doing things just because I have an urge, whatever those things may be. It's not just one thing; it's multiple things. They don't live on urges; they live on. And I'm authorized by the Shastra, by Scripture Shastra, to engage in this way. that's born of material nature. I mean, what I told this young man is, in all species, this what makes the world go round. Birds are attracted to birds, fish are attracted to fish. Male is attracted to female. It's just part of how bodies are built. So they perpetuate species. So it's not shame on you because you have that desire, but direct it in a way that's going to be elevating rather than degrading. And you can just try to, stuff it in a box. It's not there. It doesn't go away just by stuffing it in a box. So for one who lives as a brahmachari for their life, it's this higher taste. Pram Drishtva Vartate. There's a higher taste. One who lives their life that way genuinely, not by suppression, but by actually experiencing a higher taste, then that's good. So back to your question. Why? Why go through that trouble? Good question. But because there's that affinity, it's in a position of honesty to regulate, as opposed to just pretend it's not there. Because you pretend that it's not there, it's going to come out. What's inside is going to come outside. Always. It may take some time. But then it's an embarrassment for the renounced order of life that here's this renowned person that's now behaving like an animal. That's my mess. Regulate.
If I could just add a supplementary question to that. So would you say that there is something like an hierarchy that you advance through in terms of the spiritual stages, in terms of the regulation that you were talking about? So for example, what I realized reading the great people, including, let's say, Gautam Buddha, is he was a prince. And several of the great people that we've read, they were fully aware of the material pleasures, and then they went to asceticism, or they basically transcended. I haven't heard of beggars transcending as much, or perhaps they were lost in history. But I wonder if there is something like a path of first discovery, and then that leads to transcendence.
A short answer is not necessarily. There are examples of persons that were poor, if not impoverished, and then succeeded achieving transcendence. And a nice example for your list, because I'm not aware that Gautama Buddha, he was born in a king's family, so he was a prince. But he didn't, to my knowledge at least, he didn't indulge himself in the worldly pleasures of a young prince. Yamunacharya, you've heard his name, from the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, he was a king, and he indulged. And then something happened, and he became disgusted, and he turned his back on that, and became one of the principal leaders of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. And wrote, he's a very prolific person. But he knew what that world was, and he left it. So no, back to your question. Is it possible? It's certainly possible. I'll give a nice example. There are many nice examples, but I'll give one. In Sri Rangam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you heard his name? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India. He went to Sri Rangam. He came at the time of the rainy season, so he stayed at the home of the chief priest, Venkatabhatta, for 4 months. And when he was there, he went every day to see Ranganath, a darshan of the deity. And each day he would pass by and see this poor man reading Bhagavad Gita upside down and crying. So Lord Chaitanya asked him, "My dear sir, what's causing you to cry? The man said, please don't make fun of me. It's not nice. You're an elevated person. I can tell from your speech and your conduct. So don't make fun of me, please. It's not nice. He said, I'm not making fun of you. I'm curious. What's causing your tears? And then the man explained, I was born in a Brahmin family, but I'm illiterate. I don't know how to read or write. But my spiritual master instructed me to read Bhagavad Gita every day. So I read Bhagavad Gita every day. And that's why I'm holding it upside down, because I don't know what I'm doing. But I see the cover, and I see on the cover Lord Krishna instructing Bhagavad Gita and being the chariot driver of his devotee. And it brings tears to my eyes. I can't help it. I just profusely start to cry. Here's another example. This is in our tradition, Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Prabhupada, you know who is Prabhupada? His spiritual master was Bhaktisiddhanta, who was like scholarly to the max. And Bhaktisiddhanta's spiritual master was an illiterate person, Gorkishore Das Babaji. Gorkishore Das Babaji couldn't write his own name. He was illiterate. But he had profound realization of the scripture. And Bhaktisiddhanta, who was this super brilliant, scholarly type of person, accepted him as a spiritual master because of his spiritual acumen, not because of the material asset that he was carrying. He didn't have. He had spiritual asset. And there's other examples and other examples. So, if you did a little survey, probably the dial would go in the direction of a person that had worldly and then they left it, as opposed to persons that didn't have worldly and then they attained very elevated states. Probably you'd get a larger percentage over on that side. Survey. Anybody else would like to contribute to this discussion? Let's see if someone's going to raise their hand. Yeah, look at that.
So I guess like you said that you should be driven to you should drive your desires to act in the way that you wanted to, and that
I
like
didn't
stopping
exactly say
them.
that. I'm going to add it before you go further. The preamble of your question has to match.
Like you were saying that. Yeah. So you're saying that desire is like not good. I guess do you mean like material desire?
Material desire. I was making a distinction between a Buddhist that says desire zero, and instead saying desire that's material zero. Okay, but how do you get to zero material desire if you have desire? So that's by strengthening spiritual desire, and then it requires knowing what spiritual desire is and how to exercise that muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual desire muscle.
Okay. So by spiritual desire, do you mean
In relation to Krishna, that there's a source of everything, and connected with that source of everything, that's a spiritual desire. The chair that you're sitting in, where did it come from? You could say, there's a manufacturer and he put these ingredients together and there's the chair. Where those ingredients come from? Where does everything come from? There's a source. Connect things that are here with the source and use them in relationship with the source. That's spiritual. Like, you're holding a microphone. What is it? I'm holding one too. It's material. But where did it come from? The metal and the plastic and the this and the tech, the wiring and everything. It's technology. Where the ingredients come from, where the knowledge to put one of these things together come from the same source. So use it in relation to the source. We don't say don't use microphones. Don't sit on chairs. Some persons would say that's a desire. And others would say that which comes from the source, connect it to the source, please. And otherwise, no. And live your life that way. That's yoga.
So you're saying that we have both of these desires, but we should like try to practice the spiritual desire.
Yeah.
And then through that we can gain a higher
taste.
Okay, and the material desire won't go away, but
it goes away. What happens is when here's the light fixture. When I'm facing the light fixture, I don't see the shadow that's over there. It doesn't mean the shadow stopped, but I'm just seeing the light. So turn your attention to the light, the source of everything. The shadow is still there, but it's not bothering you. It doesn't affect you at all. The illusory feature of material existence doesn't affect you at all. Zero. It's back there.
So you said that material desires are like bad because they end and start and end.
No, those not badness. The badness is I forget who I am and my connection with the source from which I've come. That's the misfortune, and the misfortune has byproducts. Happiness that appears to be real, but it's temporary, and it's flickering, and it causes a lot of grief to get that little buzz of material happiness. We don't want happiness that's like that. We want happiness that doesn't end. That's what happiness means. There's no end to it.
So is it possible to like, master both and like sort of like get a temporary happiness?
Yeah, sure. People do that all the time. And there's a consequence. The consequence is whenever this is from Bhagavad Gita, sorry. Whatever your mind is fixed on, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatante kalevaram. Whatever your mind is fixed on, at the moment of death, that's where you're going. Supposing I'm in the mixed space, that's where I'm going. Another birth. Something spiritual, something material, another birth. And it's kind of quite normal. And say the other, that where one is so fixed, there's nothing else but. That's rare. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. Rare. But that's a target worth aiming for.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
The idea is not negate the darkness. It's just turn your attention to the light, and the darkness is gone. It's not affecting you anymore.
It's got it. Okay.
Good. Good.
Can I ask a?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I came in slightly late, but from what I've heard so far, we've talked about, desire.
Yeah.
How we all have desires.
Yes.
And then you also mentioned things like attraction. Male being attracted to female, it just being a normal part of us being human.
Yeah, that's right.
So there are two kind of questions. I don't know if they're questions or not, but two kind of thoughts that I have, which I could if you can comment on them.
Okay.
So just as how attraction is normal between, I guess the male and the female, or, in the same way, isn't it normal for a human to have certain desires?
Yeah.
That, so that is
absolutely normal.
Absolutely normal. Then why is it that we try so hard to kind of go in the opposite direction?
No, it's the opposite. It's elevate that desire to the spiritual position. let's take this a pyramid. At the base of the pyramid, there's lots of people that are married. And then towards the top of the pyramid, there are a few persons that are not married. And they haven't, some of those few persons have never been married. And they don't have an affinity. The body may have such affinity, but they're facing the Supreme with such intensity and such focus. It doesn't touch them at all. That's rare. That's the top of the pyramid. And then you go down the pyramid. So it's not get rid of it. It's spiritualize and elevate, regulate through standards that are within the scripture. And go in direct your life, align your life in that direction.
So it's desire to have something particular, which is in definition of like whatever spiritual things that the scriptures tell us about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regulate and direct that, whatever that is. Let's say, your students. So I want a career. Fantastic. You want a degree, and to get it with a degree, you get a career, and off we go. Enjoy life. My message here is, while doing that, make sure there's something that's at the center. And that's the Supreme. Because he is at the center. And you don't see that, guess what? You're going to get distress. Get the job, don't get the job. Get the degree, don't get the degree. Live life. And there's going to be, waves and whirlpools of distress. It's just the nature of the place. Is there an option? Yes. What's that option? Do the ABC and direct it towards, as much as I can, under the guidance of a wise person, a teacher, how to connect with the Supreme while living my life this way.
Okay. Right. That makes sense. I think it's a good way to
Yeah.
go about living life in general. I would like to follow up on that.
I want to hear the yeah, but.
So it's actually slightly unrelated, but as we also talked about, or I guess you mentioned, I guess, I don't know if you mentioned it directly, but there was this theme of renunciation
Yes.
of being,
Dial down the sense gratification, dial up the spiritual desire. That's it. That's
Right.
what renunciation is.
right. And we also mentioned, being good to good people, and there are lots
Yeah.
of good people, and your goal is to try to be a good person.
No. The goal, be a good person and direct that goodness towards transcendence, towards the Supreme.
Right. Now, I'm just afraid, I think that's a bit, they don't go hand in hand.
Good.
And what I mean by that is, if I, as a student, or whoever, let's say I'm like in my 20s, I have so many people that care for me. I have people I love,
Good.
and if I were to try to go towards the spiritual journey and renounce all of these relationships,
Just you don't cut. You don't hit it off. There's a light switch on the wall, and it's on and off. A 1 and a 0. Binary.
yeah,
So don't switch it off. You have a, dimmer switch. So with those persons that have, all those persons you described, you don't cut it off, turn it off. Let them watch you and celebrate as you go in a wholesome direction.
some might say that's being selfish, that you're only thinking about
No,
yourself.
Who's the enjoyer? When you do that, who's the enjoyer? The Supreme. I'm pointing to the light in the ceiling here. The Supreme is the enjoyer, not you or them.
Yeah.
And increase that consciousness, and not a 1 or a 0, but go in that direction. And they may like it, not like it. They may be comfortable, uncomfortable. You may like it, not like it, but at least in principle, understand this is the right thing to do. And you smile as you're going along.
Right.
And if they understand or they don't understand, you keep smiling.
But you can see how it might affect other people negatively.
That's right.
Right.
Once upon a time, I was a college kid. And when I started taking an interest in Krishna consciousness, mom and dad
Mm.
back home thought, uh-oh. They told me later. Their first worry was, is this genuine? So then they started reading. They said they came to the conclusion it's genuine. So they felt a little more relaxed. And then when I took a step and I went straight from my undergraduate studies into a temple, into an ashram, they were like, whoa.
Mm.
They were like, they didn't say anything to me. They told me this stuff later.
Yeah.
So they felt something, but they were like, I didn't cut off my relationship with them. I still visited them, dressed like this with a shaved head and, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they wanted to cook, so they knew I was vegetarian, so they had to cook vegetarian. So fine. So they made some adjustments and I made some adjustments. And then the third step was they became proud of me. I mean, it didn't happen. It was gradual.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother said, we were proud of you because you made success in your spiritual life and you became a leader. It was like, she wanted me to, that was mom. So it's okay. Let her be happy that I became a leader. But more than I became a leader, that I've made the connection with the Supreme. And because it's what they trained me when I was little.
Right.
It's in the Bible. Love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. And I was doing it. And that was the training they gave me, and they should celebrate. But there wasn't really a loss. There was like the mind, but it wasn't the same as it was before because I was doing things a little differently. But with earnest. So that's my family story. And someone else's family story is going to be different. And yours may be, very different. I don't know. But you go in the direction of pleasing the Supreme, and ultimately He'll take care of everything. That's the faith. He's, and it's true. Krishna is very kind. And all living entities, all your friends and other nice people, they're Krishna's parts and parcels also. So Krishna is within their heart, and He'll help them adjust to you make a serious step in the direction of moving towards the Supreme. Krishna will help. Rest assured.
Right. Yeah. That is the faith that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anything?
Hello.
Okay.
I have a question. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
From a student perspective, I would like to know, like, if we completely give up on materialistic desires, can we still continue be as ambitious and do well academically?
Yeah.
Because we all study hard
Yes.
and work hard,
Yes.
and we all have an ambition
It's
that
exceptional, but
Yeah.
it's doable.
one day we
Would
will.
you like an example?
Yeah, yes.
Sure. One person, there's many persons, but one person that I have the greatest admiration for was a student at Columbia University. Columbia?
Yeah, I know.
And he was a brilliant person. And then he met Prabhupada, as I did, and he became convinced by the spiritual dimension of the teachings of the Vedas. And so he then pursued studying his academic work with the goal of seeing the connection between his academic work and the Vedas. And he was then whose child? This yours? You do something, please. Okay. In short, he was given the assignment. He started writing articles that, science and spirituality. That wasn't the title, but he is like super, super, super scholarly. So he was then given the assignment by my spiritual master or our spiritual master to make a design of the structure of the universe to go inside a planetarium that will be built in West Bengal.
I'm from West Bengal.
Huh?
I'm from West Bengal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Mayapur, Sridham Mayapur, Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And he started making models. And if you like, I can arrange for you to get a copy of his articles. Because somebody just gave me one. I was just in Gainesville, Florida, where they're studying his works once a week, scholarly people. See me afterwards, or you have her contact information. You give him your contact information. I'll see you get a copy of the book. Sadaputta is his name. Sadaputta. And it's very high level stuff, but it may not be what your field is, but that's his field. But your question, the answer to your question is yes. And are there others? There's many others. There's many others. Depends on, propensities.
Yeah. But is there any way that we can do, just following the spiritual path?
Yes. Each of us has our propensities, but that you just connect that propensity with the Supreme. I'll give some other examples if you want. Here's another example. There was a young man, and when he was 16, he got a full scholarship to Oxford University. Right. They recognized how bright he was. And so he went to Oxford University, got his PhD, and now he's a professor in the state that he grew up in, which was Utah. I don't know if you know the geography of America, but it's up there in the Northwest. Mm-hmm. He just gave a seminar. I'll send you the link. No, you send him the link of a 3-part seminar. It was like, whoa. And he gave it at one of our ISKCON temples in San Jose, California. Brilliant. And he gives annual seminars at that place. And he's super scholarly. But he didn't dump his scholarship. He used it. I can give some other examples if you want. But, the answer to your question is yes. But it requires the dial goes towards Krishna and away from, I want recognition, I want da-da-da-da-da-da, I want 5 gold stars after my name and people to go, yay, you did it. Mm-hmm. All those, the money that comes with having that career that has that skill, and you leave all that behind. And what's in front of you is satisfying the Supreme. And now back to your question, is it possible to have that same focus on the non-material, but completely on and then my academic gets the same, it gets turbocharged. Better. Significantly better. Now, Sadaputta is deceased, so I can't put you in touch. But this particular individual that just gave his seminar in San Jose, he's very alive, and you can talk to him. Is it? How did you do it? Focus on the Supreme. That's yoga. Is it possible to be an academic, skilled person and a yogi at the same time? Yes. Because where's that intelligence come from? The source. Use it in relation to the source. It becomes magnified. I can give you other examples. Here's another example. My spiritual master was named Bhaktisiddhanta. He's from Bengal. They're both from Bengal. And when he was 16, Bhaktisiddhanta was the top scholar in the science of astrology. And he gave it up because it's, to move on to other wisdom that was not just more challenging, but more Krishna-centered than just what's the structure of the cosmology and how the stars influence, materially influence people's lives and all of that. He lost interest. But his academic career was always on the uphill. Because that's the kind of person he was. So he's just being himself in service to Krishna. Brilliant. So become a brilliant educator. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
What was
Oops, sorry.
do I need to use the microphone? Oh, okay. It's a quick, short question. Just out of curiosity, what was the major or the occupation of the person who went to Columbia University, who then worked on the planetarium?
What was he was a mathematician.
Okay.
That was his field, but he didn't have a profession because he got married. He had a wife and he got married and he had a child. But his field was mathematics, but his interest was Krishna mathematics. And so, that was his gift and his career. But, his interest was broadened by his exploration. Give your contact information to our professor here, and I'll send you a book too. It's a nice book. I just was given a gift, and I didn't get a chance to read it yet, to be honest. But I know the person, and I have the greatest respect for the person. Sadhaputta. Richard Thompson. What's his name before? American fellow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Swamiji, Namaskar. I have a basic question. So, what is the difference between spiritual practice and religious practice?
Between spiritual practice and
Religious practice.
religious. There are different ways of answering that. I'm pausing because there are different ways of answering that. Because the common conception of common conception religious is, dictionary definition is, a type of faith. Religion is a type of faith. So supposing I was born in a Christian family and I'm not Christian in the external sense, but I'm better Christian today than I was when I was a kid. Because Christian means love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. And I'm doing a better job at it than when I was a kid, or going by the label Christian. So faith can change. And that's religion. That can become from this to that to the other to the other, around and around. But there's something that doesn't change, And that's Dharma in the higher sense of Dharma, Sanatana Dharma. What's that Sanatana Dharma? The actual existence of a living entity in his natural eternal position. So according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiver Swarapaya Nityara Krishna Das. We're eternally the servants of Krishna. That's our Dharma. The soul, and in relation to the source. Now, by religion, I may like this kind of worship or that kind of worship or the other kind of worship by this name or that form or, this procedure and these systems of holidays and festivals and things. That's religion. And then spirituality is having that connection with the Supreme. Or Krishna consciousness is having that connection with the Supreme, regardless of the label. I'm this one or that one. Upadi, designation. So religion is a designation and spirituality isn't. It's an orientation towards the Supreme, whatever the label.
Then why they're fighting each other? Why they're making restlessness in the society?
I don't understand your question.
Like there's a conflict.
Without the microphone.
Yeah, there's conflict between different religion.
There's conflict.
Yes.
Yeah. Why? Because I've got this ism, you've got that ism, and my ism is better than your ism, so we'll have some combat. You got to be with my ism. It's that identification with the external. It's not this leave behind the sarva upadi vanir muktam tat paratvaina nirmalam from the scripture. If I identify with the covering or the label, then that's illusion. It's not spiritual, it's illusion. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. The senses serving the master of the senses. Rishikas serve the Rishikesha in service. That's spiritual, regardless of the label. So, because people don't have an understanding of who they really are, they think in terms of who they aren't. And I'm this one or that group. We battle. It's unfortunate. So what to do? Elevate to the spiritual conception. My dear sir, you're neither this nor that nor the other. Your spiritual part of the Supreme. Please serve him. Whether they listen or not is another thing, but the spirit elevation to that platform of spiritual consciousness, that's Bhakti Yoga. Welcome. I think we're going to end. Thank you for being very patient. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Rompat Swami, for that wonderful talk. I was just reflecting that to be able to answer our questions so expertly requires great study and sincerity. So we're just really grateful. So thank you. And now thank you to all of you for coming. I know it's chilly, so thank you for making the time to come. There's been so many volunteers who've made this event happen. It'll be hard to name all of them, but from logistics to dinner to reserving the space and everything. So we're just really grateful. So I'm going to take a few minutes to introduce who we are. We're part of a group on campus called the Bhakti Circle. And it's a place for you to feed in that spiritual desire or know what that is even. So we use the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and those wisdom texts to understand who we are and how we can practically apply this knowledge. So around the room, there's some flyers. You can scan that QR code, or I also have our WhatsApp group chat here. So before you leave, please take a moment to scan this. This is the best updated on what we do. We have meetings every Thursday at the Vivekananda House, the student community.